First, by the way. Hello,
All right.
everybody. We're back for one more episode of What We Are Watching. It's Pete and I. My name's Phil, in case you don't know. And before we begin, I just want to thank everyone that's watched the Star Wars podcast. We're creeping up to 200 views, which is kind of cool for that. It's more than we got for Rambo. So hopefully we'll keep those numbers up when we do our next one, which should be Alien. We're going Alien crazy, right, Pete?
I
How,
am going balls deep in aliens now, and I'm loving it.
how far are you in there? Because I saw part three this weekend.
I did as well.
Okay.
So we're
Yeah, I
on
was gonna
schedule.
watch. Okay, I was gonna watch part four, but then I was like, if I watch part four, I'm not gonna have time to watch anything for Monday, which is today. So then I didn't watch it. So I'll see if I still like part four. I'm kind of in the contrarian. A lot of people don't like that movie. Oh, we got one viewer. So hi, but I
I'm.
don't want to give too much
I
away.
love that.
Yeah, let's not give too much away though. We'll keep suspense
Yeah, of course.
as
We'll
far as
save
our
it for the
rankings.
save it for the big show.
Yes, and by the way, guys, thank you though for everybody that's watched it because we put a lot of work into that. And as you can tell, it's the sound quality is a little bit better because Pete usually comes over and we record it on a nice studio, and it's usually a lot longer and in depth and all that jazz. But tonight, oh, and by the way, like and subscribe. I always forget to say that at the beginning, if you will. And thank you guys that watched. We are watching. I mean, we get a pretty steady audience every week, which is kind of cool. So it's nice that the people that do come on, come on. Oh, I got somebody on here, Renee. Hey, Renee, what's up? Renee's a good friend of mine from Rio. So, Renee, we're going to be
Hello,
talking a
Renee.
whole lot of stuff. Okay, Pete and I, and somebody else is on there. So if you want to say hello, you can. But we were just starting out thanking everybody that's watching what we are watching and watch the Star Wars podcast. And next, we're going to have a big old aliens ranking.
Ah,
So stay tuned for that. So, Renee, if you've seen any of these movies while we're talking about it, please chime in. But tonight, we're going to go all over the place. We're going to talk abuse, violence, terror, all of that. And that's just in the Scientology documentaries. Well, that's not even bringing up all the other movies. Thank you, Renee. So, we're going to actually start with Pete today. Usually we flip it. One week I go first, the next week he goes first. But we are going to talk about Guns Akimbo, which I have not seen. It's a movie that is on my list. I finally got around to watching The Lighthouse. Have you seen that one, Pete? Pete, The
oh,
Lighthouse?
nice. Yes, I
Eh,
have. It's wonderful.
oh,
It's
good.
wonderful.
Oh, good, good. So we'll be able to talk about that. Room, which I have seen. That's an older one. And then I did two Scientology documentaries back to back, and I went balls deep into Scientology. And oh my God, that was some crazy stuff. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about My Bloody Valentine, 1980s horror, which is always fun.
British
Okay,
Columbia.
British Columbia. But we'll start with this with my boy Daniel Radcliffe from Harry Potter, Guns
Yeah.
Akimbo, 2019.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so
But
what's this one about?
before we start with this, last week you talked about how you saw targets and how we don't actually watch the same movies,
Mm-hmm.
but if we get a good recommendation from one another, we check it out. And you watched Targets and you enjoyed it. And last week you talked about this movie In Search of Darkness, this horror documentary. And I actually did check it out, and yeah, it's wonderful. Like, you should check that shit out. It was great.
Oh,
I
cool.
enjoyed it so much, especially I think I enjoyed the feminist aspect of it because everyone thinks of horror as such a misogynistic genre, and yet it's actually women that are really drawn to horror. This concept of women being in danger and confronting their fears, and this documentary really highlighted that. how women are,
They're the
attracted
heroes.
to this idea of being. Yeah, yeah, they are. It's almost they made a point of pointing out that Bruce Campbell was an anomaly, has a male hero in a horror movie, because that's extremely rare.
Hmm. Yeah, it's always the females that are the heroes. I mean, the audience, I think, is more male. So you do have to have some tits and ass in there to get the butts in the seat, especially when they're like the more B-level horror movies without the big production and all of that. But
Right.
at the end of the day, the girls rule. And I like that one actress who was like, "Hey, we didn't have action movie heroes, female action movie heroes when we like this was our
That's
way
Heather
to kick
Langenkamp.
butt."
Heather Langenkamp.
Yeah, I love that line from her. I thought that was so cool because really there weren't, except I mean, like I said, me and Pete are watching all the Alien movies. And Sigourney Weaver was probably one of the first big badass action heroes, but that was a female. But aside from that, it was slim pickings for
Yeah.
women in the action genre actually to go kick some guy's ass and draw guns and beat up people. So I think that's very cool. And by the way, Renee, who's watching right now, she's a big horror fan. I didn't know because she's into tantra and Buddhism and all these like spirituality stuff. And then I was like, oh God, she's a big horror fan. She loves it. So that's very cool. We do rule. Who run the world, girls? Yeah, that's what she's saying here. I'm showing some of the comments on the screen as they roll by. Yeah, so that's cool that
Yeah,
you like that. It's
I
a long
see
one.
him.
It's a long one. I'm actually looking for now another horror documentary, which I found out about yesterday, called Horror Noir, and it's about the history of blacks
Yeah,
in
yeah. I
in
looked for that for you. I'm sorry, I could not find it. I can't
I
find it.
know. This was a hard one for me to find. Usually I can find stuff. I spent about an hour yesterday looking for this movie and all the streaming sites and everything. I found it on one, but there was this big propaganda in front of it that like this ad like sign up for this, sign up for that. I was like, I ain't signing up for shit. But that looks like a
Right.
really good one. That looks like a really good one. And I'm looking forward to that uh, what's that? The Lovecraft Country that's coming out. So I'm looking forward to see more
Yeah,
blacks.
yeah, I've seen that, and that's actually really puzzling for me, because I've always thought that the genre of science fiction and horror was like really not very racially specific. Like, it just treated people like people. But the point of view this documentary seems to be coming from is that it's been a racist genre, and I don't know. I don't see that, but I have an open mind, so I'm
We
looking
can
forward to
definitely
checking
talk
it
about
out.
that on another episode because that's something that I was having discussion about. I started this because on a blurred. I don't know if you know what a blurred is. It's a mix of a black and a nerd, so they call them blurreds. So it's like a nerd group, more with Afro people in there. And this guy, the administrator, just put out the question like, what are some of the tropes and stereotypes that really piss you off in sci-fi in horror? And man, the thread just went and went. I put in my own things that piss me off when I watch sci-fi and horror when you have black people in it. So it's something that maybe if you're not black, you wouldn't notice, but it's definitely there. It's definitely
Right.
we touched a little bit about it. It was funny because other guys agreed with me. With remember on the Star Wars podcast how I told you when I was a kid, I used to be so pissed that
Yeah,
finally we
yeah.
get a black guy,
Lando was the
but
first black person in space.
then he's a traitor, but he's a traitor in the end. Or like, no, why do you got to make the black guy
Yeah.
the bad guy at the end? So there's a bunch of stuff though that we notice. It's like, okay, it's always kind of repeats a pattern um, that doesn't involve just making an interesting character that's a lead. And okay, so it's cool to see in the last couple years, especially with Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson, that's definitely a different person.
Yeah.
Jordan
Yeah.
Peele. Yeah, I was watching a lot of Jordan
Yes.
Peterson last week
Yeah.
too. Coming out, it's gotten more interesting black characters in sci-fi and Fantasy is really weak for black people, but that's understandable because it's usually set in these pseudo European settings. So I totally get that. But with sci-fi and horror, we could do a little bit better, and things are getting there. But anyway, let's move ahead so we don't take up too much time. But I'm glad you like that,
Yes,
and
Guns Akimbo.
Guns Akimbo. Let's do it. What's this movie about?
It's about a streaming television show that features death matches. It's pretty
Mm,
out there right from the beginning. And
I'm already.
Daniel Radcliffe, our boy from Harry Potter. And I have to admit, I haven't seen many Harry Potter movies. I only saw the Phoenix one, and that's only because I caught it on an airplane. It wasn't that I actually wanted to watch it.
Yeah,
So
that's
I've
sad.
never had a
I
very
actually
high.
sat down and watched it.
Yeah, I've never had a very high opinion of the guy, but he's amazing in this. He plays a code programmer who he does like cell phone games or something. He
Mm.
programs code for cell phone games, and he's really down on this streaming show that's about death matches, and he trolls it. And so to get back at him, the hosts of the show kidnap him and put him in the show. And to force him to be in the show, they actually they surgically attach guns to his hands, and that's actually the whole joke throughout the movie. He has guns to his hands, so like when he tries to use his phone, when he tries to take a piss, like everything's complicated because he has fucking guns attached to his
He's like
hands,
Edward
and he doesn't
Scissorhands.
want. It's exactly like well, no, it's more like Edward Penis Hands. I don't know if you've ever seen the porno version.
I've never seen the
Yeah,
porno.
well, yeah,
And
it's like that.
Pete, I gotta interrupt you here because Renee asked if you're from Canada, and I guess she caught on to your accent. So yes, Pete is from Canada.
Yes, yes, Renee, I am from Canada. Thanks for listening. Pleasure to have you with us. But yeah, it becomes this whole joke about how he has guns for hands, and yet he really doesn't want to kill anybody. But at the same time, there is this running count going of how many bullets he has left in each gun because, like, once the guns are out of ammo, he's fucked. He's got guns for hands, but they're not going to shoot anything. And he's in this death match with this woman who is a supreme badass, but we know there's got to be something more to her, or she wouldn't be in the story. Like, so we have that whole aspect. But I think what I really liked about this was Daniel Radcliffe does have this whole Harry Potter stereotype, and here he was just completely against it. It was like, wow, this is a guy being a good actor in a silly action movie that was shitloads of fun, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Thumbs up.
It's it's an action movie because I thought it was more of like a gore fest. Is it gory or no?
No, no, not really, not really. I
Oh, okay.
mean, like the thing is
I had a different impression of
with
it.
the Radcliffe character, he's trying to avoid violence. Like
Mm.
his whole thing is like I don't want to be this person, but he has this problem where he has guns surgically attached to his hands. So it's kind of hard not to shoot people. So it happens, but it's not like the main thing of the movie. I
I
think
got you.
actually the main thing in the movie is about internet addiction because he gets drawn into this scenario because he's a troll basically, and he's trolling people who are addicted to streams that he considers, kind of immoral, like a waste of time, blah blah
It's
blah.
funny you
But
mentioned the. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say it's
No,
funny you
no, it's
mentioned
okay.
the internet because I know that the director of the movie got in a little bit of hot water, and it actually kind of messed up the release of the movie. It got sent back because he had this Twitter conversation that went on a little bit too long about the use of the word nigger, and if you say it in jest, it's okay, and that's and that and the third. So then he got in a whole bunch of hot water because of that, and then he went on to harass some black women, and I don't know. There's a whole lot of stuff that happened around the movie. I think I knew more about the controversy than the movie itself. Although I did like the poster; it looked kind of flashy. But I thought it would be more of like a gore fest. I didn't know it was just a regular action movie. So I have to check that
Yeah,
out.
no, it's pretty straightforward. I think the biggest surprise is how the female character turns out. I mean, you do feel like there's more to her than just being a death machine. Um,
Hmm.
and towards the end, her and
No
Radcliffe kind of
spoilers.
team up and become. Yeah, well, it's not a spoiler. I'm not telling how it ends, but you know this is coming. You do know
Yeah,
it's not a spoiler. Like you can see
yeah.
this
Most
coming
movies are
from a
like that.
mile away. Um, yeah, yeah. She's a badass, and she's his enemy, but you can see it coming to the point where they're going to be working together.
Yeah, most movies are like that. That's a pretty cliche move. All right, I guess I'll check it out. I kind of liked him in that movie. Was it The Woman in Black or something like that? It was this kind of
Yeah,
movie
yeah, that
about.
was good as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, he's tried to. That was from 2012. He's tried to get away from his Harry Potter role. Actually, he really got away from it when he was in that play. What's it called? Asteris. What is the play with Radcliffe? That's his name, right? It was play with Harry Potter. I forgot the name of the play now, but he was butt ass naked in that play, so that was kind of his way to like totally move away from that character. So I think he's been trying to do that for a while. Daniel Radcliffe, that's his name, right?
Yeah, yeah, I mostly
Daniel.
know him from BoJack Horseman. He has a wonderful scene in BoJack Horseman where BoJack burns $500,000 in charity money just to spite him.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he was doing a lot of theater, and I think he was in a Beckett play. He was in another play called Privacy, where he was butt ass naked. So I mean, he was doing a lot of nudity for whatever reason. Equus, that's the name of
Right.
the play that he was in. Um, the naked truth behind the most shocking scene in Equus. So I guess he was showing off his little ass. So yeah, he what do you call it? He's been trying to get away from that. Go check it out. I'll see. Look,
Yeah, it's a fun action movie. That's all it is. Like I'm not gonna rave about it. It's just a fun action movie.
okay. Uh, well, we're gonna move ahead now to a not so fun, neither action movie, but it was pretty damn good.
This is
And
the
I was
same
happy.
director as The Witch, right?
I know, yes, it is. It definitely is. Which of the new directors that are out right now, the trio of new horror directors, which is
Yeah.
I guess it's Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, and this is Robert Eggers. I like him the most.
Yes.
I like him the most
Okay.
because I really dug The Witch, and
The
I
Witch
thought
was
this was.
fun.
Yeah, this was even a little bit better. I think they still got room to grow, but there was a whole lot
Yeah.
of growing that he did in this movie from the first one. So, basic story of the lighthouse, like let's put like the surface story, because there's a whole lot of symbolism and a whole lot of other shit going on. But the basic story is you've got these two guys, an older guy and a younger guy. The older guy is played by our friend William Defoe, and
Willem
we've got,
Dafoe.
yeah, and Robert Pattinson of Twilight fame, soon to be the new Batman, plays Ephraim Winslow, aka Thomas Howard. And so they just go out there to this lighthouse because that's what they do. They got to stay there for about a month and look after the lighthouse. And in this month that they're there, things slowly escalate to lunacy as you get a kind of a sense of cabin fever. And then it gets even worse when they're supposed to go out there to meet the ship that's going to take them out of the lighthouse to bring in the new crew. And they miss the boat, or the boat doesn't come. I don't know exactly how it went down, but it was a stormy night. And it ends, well, I don't want to give away the ending, but it just, imagine two people kind of stuck with each other and it gets a bit violent and a bit insane.
Yeah, it's social isolation before we even knew what that was.
Yes, it was so. But then you get the deeper, like the kind of symbolic meaning of it all, and you can just break this thing down for a very long time. What I got out of it, I mean, this is one of those movies that I think it wouldn't be a spoiler to give away the ending because you kind of sort of have to talk about the ending to make sense of the movie. So I might give a spoiler warning for
Right.
this one, Pete, because it's kind of tough to not to talk about this movie without, and it's not like a shocking ending. I mean, just think about it. These two guys are stuck on this fucking rock. Eventually, they're
Yeah.
gonna get sick of each other, and they're both not gonna survive. Okay, it's not a.
Right.
So I'm taking away the spoiler warning for this one. But the thing is, when because what's his name? Patterson's character, Ephraim. Let's call him Ephraim to not confuse it, because then you got two Toms. Ephraim is trying to get up to that lighthouse to see what's up there, and Tom, which is Defoe's character, doesn't let him ever go up there. So at the end of the movie, after he kind of gets rid of Defoe's character, Tom, he does climb up the steps. He looks into the light. He screams, and then it cuts to him on the beach with these seagulls plucking away at him. So you're like, what the fuck just happened, right? It kind of felt a little bit Lynchian. We were
Yeah.
discussing it a couple weeks
It's
ago.
very ambiguous. It's very
Very ambiguous.
ambiguous. It's one of those what do you think happened type of movies.
Yeah.
But
And I don't know.
I think it works better than Lynch actually.
No, yeah, it's a lot more straightforward than Lynch. I'm saying it's definitely got a lot of influence. It's got a lot of Lynch influence in it, but it's a much more straightforward story than David
Yeah,
Lynch would.
I think they were. I think they got fucked up by mermaids. That's my take on the whole thing.
Yeah, because there were mermaids in this movie that showed up out of nowhere, right? See,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I liked about The Witch is that there were various interpretations. Like you can look at it as there were actually witches out in the forest, but you can also interpret it. And this guy that does these movies, Eggers, does a lot of research on the subject. And apparently at that time, there were a lot of these Puritans that were getting sick and having hallucinations because of the crops. They weren't, they were getting like food poisoning, and they were getting a lot of, they're getting trippy, off of the weeds back in the day, not knowing. So the witch can be read
Right.
both ways. It could be read like, hey, maybe there was some real weird supernatural shit going on, or maybe it was just these motherfuckers tripping out and they think they're seeing what they're seeing and they're not. And I thought this movie worked on that same level of maybe there was some supernatural shit going down, like some Lovecraft type shit with that octopus coming out of nowhere and the mermaids. Or maybe it was
Right.
just these two guys getting really drunk and just imagining a whole lot of shit and just getting
I
having
did
that
get
character.
really drunk too. Like, holy fuck, Willem Dafoe is a lush in this movie.
He was so great, and I'm glad I found this gift because this was one of my favorite scenes in the movie where
Yeah,
Patterson
it's
they're
hilarious.
having a fight, and he's like, "Do you like?" He said he talks shit about his cooking, and he's like, "You don't like my lobster?" He's like, "Not really." Then he like gives this beautiful monologue about damning him by let the Poseidon by Poseidon's rage and this and that and the third and until your body and your guts become one with the ocean and you get washed ashore and plucked to death by these seagulls and I'm like, oh my god, this guy was insane, absolutely insane. So if you're gonna watch this
Yeah, he
movie,
was over the top. He was so delightfully over the top, though, that
I
he
know because
made that movie.
he made it, and it was cool because he was over the top, but I never felt like he went ham. He was like right on that edge of going ham and being over the top. He was perfect. He was absolutely perfect, and I hope.
Yeah, he was the perfect representation of a crazy dude who's been stuck on an island for too long.
So now we get to some theories, though. So one thing that I thought was telling was that Patterson's character eventually told what he did. That I won't spoil. He said something that he did in the past after he had drunk a couple.
Mm,
Then the scene kind of cuts and it's absolute silence, which is odd because the movie is full of noise. It's the noise of the waves, the noise of the horn, the wah, and then it's just silence. And then you hear Defoe's voice saying, "Why'd you spill your beans to me? Why'd you?" So something about him telling what he did triggered this final acts, I guess, the final act or two of the movie, and it made me wonder because there's a line in there where Defoe's like, you know what? How do you know you're even here? How do you know you're not, speaking of Canada, you're not out there in the forest of Canada chopping wood and, getting frostbitten and
right.
dying some. So and then it gave it this extra layer of what if this is all inside Patterson's mind? Like this is like some type of purgatory that he put himself in
Yeah,
um, to
and it could
deal
be. We don't know that it isn't.
Yeah, to deal with the guilt of what he did. And Defoe, and somebody mentioned this, I was because I read up on the movie afterwards, that when he goes up to the lighthouse, Patterson, and he falls down, he breaks the same leg that Defoe breaks, or leg that Defoe's is broken, already broken since the beginning of the movie. So what
Right.
if Defoe is like a future version of him, and he's just kind of
Yeah,
stuck perpetual loop. I don't know. There's so much to unpack in this movie, guys. But if you like
it
a,
is a mindfuck movie, man.
yeah, it's a slow burn. I'm not a huge fan of that of that term, but it is what it is. It's a slow movie. It's a character movie. Not a lot is going to happen as far as action. There's a few nice fights in there between the two of them, which are actually kind of funny. But it's a psychological
Yeah,
movie. It's one of those that you got to be in the right mood, be paying attention. It's black and
yeah,
white.
you definitely have to be in the right mood to watch this movie. You can't
Yeah,
just like
just,
watch it when you're drunk or watch it when you're distracted by other things. Like you need to focus on it, but it's a good one.
it's a good one, and I thought it was an improvement on The Witch. So I'm really excited about what these directors, these young guys and gals, there's some really good female directors coming out right now, um, are up to and what they're going to come up with. Because I said to myself, this movie, man, I mean, it for me was almost there. Like it needed a little bit more. I couldn't put
Yeah,
my finger on it of what that extra more was. I don't know if it was in the sound editing or the music or just the shots, but it needed a little bit to put it on that masterpiece level. But it's so exciting to see a
yeah,
director that his fucking way, like he's on his way, you know. Um, so
yeah. I think this guy's got like a really minimalist approach, and he
Hmm.
needs to find a way to take it beyond that minimalism. Not much more, just a little more.
No,
'Cause the minimalist stuff works actually.
it does.
He just needs to make it like I don't know. Think like David Lynch doing The Elephant Man, for example. That was perfect. That was David Lynch at his best. And for me, like everything by David Lynch since has been not quite as good. I think The Elephant Man is where he hit it. He hit the perfect level of creepy, insinuating, but not really throwing it in your face. Like the story was enough. And I think everything since then from Lynch has been ambiguous. And I know you don't agree because you're a big fan of Mulholland Drive and
No,
I'm not,
no, but you
but
know what?
okay.
I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna totally agree with you when it comes to making a straight movie. I think The Elephant Man is where Eggers can arrive at some point when he's making if he wants to make a straight movie. I happen to think Lynch
Right.
does well with surrealist stuff too, because what does The Elephant Man have that this movie doesn't have? Humanity. Like even within all that shock and dark and dreariness, there's a humanity. There's something that touches you, which connects you to the characters in the film on a deeper level. I think that's where Eggers, he's not there yet. He's learning how to get there. This movie, he was able to do it
Right.
more than with The Witch, but it's still, I feel like it's this movie where I'm just watching these characters, but I'm like an outsider. I'm not in the movie yet. So he's learning how to get
Right.
there, and it's
Yeah.
exciting. It's exciting. Like The Elephant Man, you're in that movie. You're feeling everything that everybody in that movie's feeling. So it's exciting. By the way, we got a comment here by Vic Grimes. Thank you for watching,
I
Vic.
did
Thanks for
see Vic Grimes. Vic
not
Grimes.
Rick,
Thank you.
Vic. And he says, I always say it as Proteus and Prometheus, but I didn't fully get that until the end. And good comment, Vic, because I was watching. No, actually, I did watch a video and write a few articles after where people mentioned that. And actually, the director mentioned that he used those two mythologies. I believe it was Defoe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vic, but I think Defoe is supposed to represent Proteus, which is this god of the oceans and the waters and everything. And Prometheus, everybody knows, right? He went up and stole the fire from the gods. That's supposed to be uh, Patterson's character. I like that when I read it. And I think he definitely might have used those elements, but I don't know if it was the driving element for the story itself, because this didn't feel like a retelling of a mythology. He might have used those mythological themes or motifs to represent the characters, but I'm not sure if that actually told the story. You know, I thought the story was about overcoming grief, overcoming guilt. There's a lot of
It was
homoeroticism in it, which
purgatory. It was purgatory. I
I
think
think
it
for
was
me it was
purgatory
purgatory.
completely.
I think it was purgatory. And the director talked a lot about how he intentionally put a lot of homoeroticism in the movie. And there was a lot of scenes where you're like, well, are these guys gonna fuck each other? Are they not gonna fuck each other? Which was kind of, you know. So I think he put a lot of stuff that was ambiguous about, trying to be your complete self versus hiding, and and then eventually, he confesses his sin to Defoe's character, and that's what builds the rest of the story. But good comment, Vic, because definitely there was. I mean, this guy's cool. Rick, I'm not Rick. Eggers. His name is actually. I
Yeah.
always get his name wrong. Robert. I was going to call him Rick Eggers, but Robert Eggers, because he does a lot of research before he puts his movies together. So you see that it's well thought out. He's trying to put all the pieces into place and everything. So I can't wait to see what he's got coming next, because he's definitely one of
Yeah,
the
I'm looking
cool.
forward to the next effort.
But let's move ahead. So that was from 2019. Hopefully, movie will get some Oscar love. Who knows? If we have the Oscars, did we have the Oscars already this year? I don't know. I'm so lost in time with this COVID. But whenever the
No, that was
Oscars,
from last year.
yeah, but did we have the Oscars this year? I'm so lost.
Yeah, we did the Korean
We
movie
did.
one,
Oh God.
Parasite.
Oh yeah, the Korean movie one, the fucking Parasite. That was such a good movie. Okay, so no Oscar love for The Lighthouse, but Parasite was better. But anyway, let's move ahead, guys. I'm so lost in time with this COVID. Let's move ahead now, and we got an oldie but a goodie with Brie Larson,
Yeah,
right?
it is a good one. It is, yes. Brie Larson, Ms. Marvel.
Before everybody hated her
Also
guts.
Envy from Scott Pilgrim. Yes, yes. So I stumbled across this because I was watching the A24 films still, because there's like 97 of the fucking things, and I'm only halfway through them. This was a real nice surprise, though. I did look it up before I watched it and found it was about a girl who is kidnapped and serial raped for 7 years and has a child as a result of being serial raped. And I thought, well, that's not very pleasant. I'm not going to enjoy this very much. But it was actually surprisingly good. Um, the movie is mostly told from the child's point of view. So
Hmm.
the story is the girl is abducted when she's 17 and she's held captive and raped on a daily basis. And as a result of these daily rapes, she does have a kid. And the kid basically becomes her reason for living. But we see the story through the kid's point of view. He grows up, they're being held cap. The title of the movie is Room, and Room is the garden shed that they're being held in. And for him, this is like the only world he's ever known. And
Hmm.
she's kind of created this fantasy for him to make life more bearable because their captor has provided them with a television, and she's like, everything you see on television, that's not real. But she reaches a point where it's not so much for her, but for him. She's like, we got to get out of here. Like, I'm okay. I can die. I can be a victim, but I can't let my son grow up like this. So she hatches this escape plan, and they do get out eventually. And when they do, she's the one who actually has a harder time dealing with it. For him, it's like this amazing thing because the whole story takes place around his fifth birthday. His whole narrative throughout the movie is when I was four, I didn't know anything about the world, but now I'm five and I know everything. And it's largely about him seeing this bigger world other than this garden shed that he grew up in. And it's pretty powerful. Brie Larson is amazing in it. I don't know her from much else besides Ms. Marvel and Scott Pilgrim, but apparently she won the Oscar for it, and she deserves it.
Yeah.
Like she has all the feels in this.
Yeah, I got to know her actually from this movie, even before Marvel, which I thought was strange because I saw how much hate she was getting for Captain Marvel, and I said, "But she's a really good actress." But then I saw Captain Marvel, and then I understood that because she's horrible in that.
Yeah.
Um, um, I don't know. I mean, I joked a little bit about this on your Facebook page, how this is the perfect role for her because it's very, not a lot of emotional range. It's very muted, very serious, and I think it kind of fits her personality
Yeah,
because
she's
even when
in
you see her,
denial for most of it.
yeah, because in her interviews, you see she's just not like she doesn't have a warm personality, which is fine. Some people don't, you know. But it doesn't really suit you well when you're trying to play a superhero that's supposed to be out there smiling and getting people um, pumped up to root for you. But I agree with you. Great movie. I saw this when I was doing my for my blog. I used to do um, ranking the Oscar movies, which, by the way, I may want to bring back, Pete. We got so much time to watch movies. Let's see if we can bring back ranking the Oscar movies. But my big crazy idea is to just start from the fucking beginning. Just like watch the best picture Oscar movies, rank them, and see what we consider to be the best ones, and just move on up. It's kind of a crazy idea, but if you're up for it, I'm up for it. Um,
I can do
and
that. I can do that.
yeah, so and it's good at least because back in the day there were only like five movies. It's only recently that there's like 12 fucking, like it's every damn movie is up for best picture. It's harder to do nowadays. But back in the day it'd
Yeah.
be like between 5 and 7 movies, so it's not that big of a chore. But really good movie. I agree with Pete. I really loved it. The little kid is fucking awesome. I forgot his name. Let me see. It's Jacob Tremblay. He's really good in it. And I think the part that I like the best is that it's the movie's set, it's like cut in two parts. It's them in the room, but then it's her after they escape. So you
Yeah.
get for me that was the best part of the movie because that's when you get to see the trauma, and even not just the trauma she's suffering, but the trauma that her family and friends had to suffer, thinking that she was dead, thinking that she disappeared, and all of a sudden she's back. How do you deal with something like that? Like we never get the
Yeah.
after
You,
story when. Go ahead.
you get the feeling that like she would have been okay living with this fucking serial rapist piece of shit, if not for her kid. She gets out of there because of her kid. But when she
Yeah.
goes back to her life, she realizes she's lost like 7 years of her life. And it's not the trauma of being raped and shit. It's the years that she's lost that really upset her. And the inability of her father, played by William H. Macy, who only has like two scenes in this movie, but he's great whenever he appears anywhere. He has a real difficult time accepting her son because he is a product of rape. Like he can't even look at him.
Yeah. No, I thought that part was the most hard hitting because when we see these stories, I mean, most of them don't have happy endings. When you see these stories on the news of missing children and missing people in general. But then when they do say, oh, so and so was found, that's it. Like, I think we're so conditioned to the Hollywood endings. We're just like, oh, little Mary was found. But we don't, I don't think a lot of us
Yeah,
stop to think
let's
about.
not think about the horrible fucking 7 years she had, you know?
No, not even that. Like, what's Mary's life gonna be now that she's out? I don't think people stop
Yeah,
to think about
yeah,
that part. Like, we think plenty about the horrors of little Mary getting raped, but we don't think about all the post-traumatic stress and having to reacclimate to life and all that stuff that happens to a victim of a very serious trauma afterwards. So I thought the movie, for me, that's where it shined, was that part. Because we've seen plenty of the stuck in the basement, I mean,
right.
that's, part of Hollywood. I mean, all the way from Silence of the Lambs and all that. We've seen that. We've seen plenty of that. But what happens to the fat chick that after she didn't put on the oil, the Buffalo Bill's little well,
It rubs
you
the
know,
lotion on its skin or else it gets
rub
the
the
hose
look. Yeah,
again.
like what happened to her after? We don't think about that. It's just okay. The movie
Right.
ended. Buffalo Bill gets killed. Nice, happy ending. So I thought that was a real genius part of the movie, and I kind of sort of lost a bet with a buddy of mine over this movie because I said it was based on a true story, and it's really not. I mean, it's based on a few true stories. Because there was a story, I think there was one in the U.S. and another in Europe or something, where a girl was kept for a very long time in this little shed and stuff. But then the writer just kind of built off of that and made her own fiction. But it's definitely a fiction movie. But I was so pissed that I lost that because I'm usually good at stuff like that. But it's definitely a fiction, but it's based on some true life events. So Pete, before we get on to our Scientology, there we are. There's Pete. Say hi.
Forward. Oh my God!
I
What the fuck am I doing live? Aren't I supposed to have an avatar on or something?
You're supposed to, but you didn't put one on, so everybody gets to see your beautiful face.
Yeah,
There you go. We're now before we
that's
move on.
okay.
I
I'm
just want
fine with it. I'm fine with it.
yeah, we're fine with it. I don't think Vic is is shocked. I just wanted to look at this with you real quick because I saw this article and I don't want to spend too much time on it. So just before we get to the next movie, which is the fall movie preview, you know what? And we're going to be talking Scientology in a little bit, guys, because I went knees deep, balls deep, I should say, into some Scientology this weekend. But for those of you that are like, oh, I need new movies, I saw this nice article from Shondaland. I don't know if that's Shonda from Grey's Anatomy, Shonda, but it had some movies here to look forward to. We got on August 21st, we got Tesla, which I've been waiting for this movie forever. So I definitely want to check
Yeah,
that
yeah.
out. And that's going video on
And
demand.
Mulan is apparently going to be streaming.
Oh, yes, it was. The one and only Ivan. I have no clue what this is. It looks like one of those for the kids with a gorilla in it. Chemical Hearts, ever hear about this one? Have no clue. It's a teenage love
No,
story.
no.
Sounds
Okay.
boring. Lingua
And
Franca.
they can be surprising.
Lingua Franca actually looks kind of nice. It's Ava DuVernay, which I kind of like, but it's not her. I think it's one of her production companies. She did Selma, I believe, which I thought was a really good movie. But it's about an undocumented Filipina trans woman working as a caregiver in Brighton Beach. So I don't know. I'd like to see
Wow, that
that.
should make all the social justice warriors happy.
I saw the trailer for this Rogue. If you want to laugh, watch the trailer to Rogue. It's Megan Fox playing a mercenary, and you'll laugh a lot when you watch the
Okay.
trailer. That's all I'll say. And there's a wild
Good.
tiger
Good.
or a
Good.
lion or something. The personal history of David Copperfield, boring. I am not a Charles Dickens fan, but for the Charles Dickens fans, there you go. We got the New Mutants. I know you want to see that.
I do. I never did, but it's been denied to us so long. They apparently did like this live stream, the cast, where all
Yes.
they did was talk about how annoying it was that the movie has been delayed for like what 2 years now. So now that
It's
it's
supposed
been
to come out
delayed for
last
two
year.
years,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah, of
gonna have
course
a
I want to see
theatrical
it.
release. Here it says theatrical release, so we'll see. The Courier, never heard about it. I have no clue. It's getting a theatrical. We got Hard Kill, a Bruce Willis movies, not Die Hard, but Hard Kill. Don't confuse that titles, and not um, Death Wish either. So he's got a kind of a motif going with his movies, but that looks bad, but worth watching. It's gonna be on video on demand.
You know what it looks like? It looks like one of those movies, like that Mel Gibson movie where he was in Puerto Rico or whatever the fuck.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah. It looks
racist
like
one.
one of those like racist, like cop violence movies, which could
I
be
know.
awesome.
So exactly. So I might be on that. This one I definitely have to see. Bill and Ted Face the Music. That's going to be August 28th. And that one's going to video on demand. Thank goodness, because I can't wait. That's part of my childhood. That's right in my wheelhouse. 1991. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. The second, I've never heard of it. It's with Ryan Phillippe. I remember him. What's Ryan Phillippe
Felipe,
from? I
I
forgot.
believe. Felipe.
Yeah, but I
Felipe.
forgot where he was from. Was he like is he a singer or something or a
He
model?
was in Crash. I remember he was in Crash.
Oh,
But
I couldn't stand that movie.
yeah, I
American
know.
actor.
You misinterpreted.
Shooter, Cruel Intentions. I Know What You Did Last Summer. The Lincoln Lawyer, Secrets and Lies. I don't know. He's an actor that I'm not a huge fan of. That much I know. Tenet, which I have no clue what the fuck this movie's about. I don't think
Yeah,
anybody does.
yes, yes. It's opening in drive-ins apparently.
Yeah, supposedly the movie that'll save theaters. That's gonna come out September 3rd. 150 minutes. We might luck out. We might get to see it down here in Brazil before the U.S. sees it. But they say that it's gonna open in Labor Day weekend. The Owners with Maisie Williams. I have no clue what that is. It's a home invasion movie, home invasion thriller. Um, it's a young woman who agrees to accompany her boyfriend in a robbery. I have no clue. I'm thinking of ending things. That sounds like a nice title. Um, I don't know any of these people. She plays a woman who is having second thoughts about her boyfriend while on a trip to visit his family. Boring. The Secrets We Keep, set after World War II, a suburban woman in America kidnaps her neighbor and seeks justice for war crimes. That could be good.
That sounds good.
I could deal with that. The King's Man. Uh, Fan of the Kingsman series will want to brave theaters to see The Kingsman, a prequel to Matthew Vaughn's spy franchise. I've never heard of it. Not something that I'm into, but who knows? Cajillionaire. Cajillionaire, a family of con artists played by Richard Jenkins and Deborah Winger who are constantly involved in scams and thefts. This kind of looks like the Parasite, but like American version. The Nest, coming out September 18th. I guess it was big at the Sundance Festival. Jude Law, he's been gone for a while. I read an article about why Jude Law was a person
Yeah.
non grata because he did some bullshit at the Oscars or something. Like he made a joke he wasn't supposed to make, and then he got kind of sidelined. Antebellum, definitely want to watch. I
This one
finally,
is
I
hugely hyped. Hugely hyped.
yeah, yeah, that looks. I never even knew anything about it. I actually thought it was supposed to be a series, and then I finally caught the trailer. I was like, "Whoa, this shit is wild!" Which is basically these black people from modern time, like now time, get kidnapped and taken to this plantation where they got to live out like this slave time. I'm like, what the fuck? But it's like the right
That's
type of what
actually
the
not a
fuck.
bad concept, right?
It isn't. It's great. It's fucking. It's awesome. It's one of those. I love those. What's the writer? The guy that wrote. Fuck. Well, he wrote a book towards the end of his life where what if the Nazis had won the war? So I like this type of
Philip K. Dick.
fantasy
Philip K.
history.
Dick.
John Updike. I think it was John Updike.
No, it's Philip K.
John,
Dick.
which one did John Updike? Uh, right then. But I think the end of time. I don't know. But anyway, in either case, I like stuff like that. That kind of fucks with your head and history. We got Greenland. The world is ending in Greenland, an apocalyptic thriller that, of course, stars Gerard Butler. There's a comet hurtling to Earth. Oh, I think I've seen this movie before, but okay. The Artist's Wife looks like a character piece about an aging actress who's going nuts. The Way I See It looks kind of boring. It's a docu movie about a photographer during the White House Obama and Reagan presidency. And if Renee's still watching, me so horny, Reagan, she'll get that joke. Wonder Woman 1984, definitely. Can't wait to see this.
We will never see this movie. We will
Oh,
never
I
see this
I
movie.
hope
It's like
so.
New
Even if
Mutants. It's been promised for so long, but it's not
I
happening.
can't wait for this. Supposedly it's gonna be out in October. October 16th, we got Candyman, which I had planned to watch this weekend because I've never seen the original, but I just had way too many
The
movies to
original
watch.
sucks, man. Everyone in the group
Really?
loves it. Yeah, I
Uh,
didn't care for it at all.
I gotta check it out. Death on the Nile is coming out
Cool,
10/23.
cool.
Come
I get
Play. That
Christie.
sounds like a porn movie, but it's a horror movie. This is about a creature who uses a kid's electronic devices to break into our world. Black Widow supposedly is gonna come out this year, November,
Nice,
November
nice,
6th. No Time to
nice.
Die. That's when we get the big ones. Some James Bond at the end of the year, November 20th. Soul.
Yeah, this drives me
Uh,
crazy, man. People think that like what's his face? The dude from The Wire. What's his name? Um,
Idris.
Idris Elba. Idris Elba.
Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna be the next James Bond. But seriously, man, he's like the same age as Daniel Craig, and they're not gonna make another Bond movie for at least 3 years now. At least it'll
Yeah.
probably be more like four. So he's gonna be way over the hill by the time that shit happens.
His time is done. I think he would have been an okay Bond, but um,
Yeah, he would have been, but it's too late.
too late. Um, Wait a second now. I'm gonna go back to the other screen so people are gonna see your beautiful face. If you want, I'll do this. Look at that. How nice I am. I'll put myself
No, it's
as the.
fine. I'm I'm
All right.
comfortable in my
So for those
ugliness.
of you, so a little ride down movie lane. So hopefully we'll get some new movies. Pete and I will be here to watch it. So let's run real quick towards the end of this podcast because we're reaching an hour, and I don't want to run over like we did last time. So I'm just gonna break down what happened to me this weekend. Well, first I was watching a whole lot of Alien movies, but then after the Alien movies, I like to do with most movies after I watch them. I like seeing I like watching like documentaries about it. You know what I'm saying? So, oops.
Yeah, for sure.
So what did I do? I One second, Pete. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. That's what I want to do. Okay. So I'll go on YouTube and I'll watch like the making of Aliens One or Alien, the making of Aliens, whatever. And then I'll usually fall asleep and it'll go into auto. And then I hit the Joe Rogan experience, and he was talking to this guy Louis Theroux, which I guess is a big deal guy over in England. He's kind of like a Michael Moore type, you know. He makes these
Okay.
documentaries exposing stuff, but he does it with a little comic twist to it, whatever. And but he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about Scientology. Now I've heard enough about Scientology where I'm like, ugh, I don't want to hear anything more. But he, I like that he was talking about this movie that he made, which is my Scientology movie, where he was actually talking to ex members of Scientology, but like from the higher ranks. In this, I didn't know. I mean, I don't follow it closely enough where I know that the high ranking members are out. I know that, Leah Remini is probably the most famous celebrity that said, fuck this shit. And a few other celebrities might have left the church. But I was like, oh shit, I gotta check this movie out, see if it's any good. So I watched my Scientology movie, which is he's talking to one of the main guys from Scientology, which is this guy called Mark Rathburn or Rathbun. He was like the enforcer because the Scientology is like a fucking mafia. This guy was the enforcer. He's the one
Yeah.
that if you talked bad about Scientology, he was gonna send people to your house. He was gonna film you. He's gonna find out every dirty thing you've ever done, put it on the internet, put up fake websites, blah 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 blah. He was like the right hand man of the leader of the church, which is this guy called Miss Shalvich or something. I don't want to even say these guys' names right, to be honest with you. And um, but then right after I did this, I went and I was back on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan was actually talking to the dad of the leader of Scientology right now, which is that guy. I gotta get his name. Leader of Scientology, so I say it correctly. David Miscavige, that's his name. Whose wife, by the way, is missing. Nobody knows what the fuck happened to this lady. But so then they were talking about this other movie called Going Clear, and Going Clear is in the Prison of Belief. So then I watched both movies, and this is what I got to say about it. Okay, one is these motherfuckers are nuts. That's clear. Okay, but everybody kind of knows that already. Ron L. Hubbard, he's in the Guinness Book of World Record for having written the most fiction of any other human being on planet Earth in the history of this planet. He's written the most fiction, but he also happened to have written this one true document, which is, the church doctrine of Scientology. And this guy whatever his name is, Miscavige, he took over after L. Ron Hubbard died, and he's the one that is like the Iron Fist, and he's the one that really turned this church into the cult and into the dangerous place that it is now for people who can't leave. And these two movies
Right.
really go in. Go ahead.
Didn't Hubbard create Scientology as like a dare?
Oh, that I don't even know. I think he created it. He had told his ex-wife many times, is like the way to get rich is through religion. He's like, you gotta. So he wrote Dianetics. Dianetics was the first book, which my mom had a copy of. Like,
Yeah.
I think everybody, well, not everybody, but a whole lot of motherfuckers had a copy of Dianetics, at least, or at least seen it on somebody's table. And it's funny, when I was little, I never connected it to Scientology. I had no idea what it is. And then after that, he started going around with his e-meters and giving these and explaining how it is that you can make people clear. That's why the name of the movie is Going Clear. Going clear is when you're able to just be at peace and be your true self. And actually, I was at a student's
Yeah.
house, and this little kid, he was like
Once you
14,
purge
15.
the alien DNA from you or whatever.
That's only after you get to GT3, I believe. So, or OT3 or something.
Oh my
Operating
goodness.
no, but in the beginning, so that's where it gets you. And this is where I kind of sympathize with these folks that are in this church. I feel bad for them. I don't laugh at them as much
They're,
because when you're in the,
they're all so affluent though. They're all like rich people. Like
not really, dude.
you
That's what
have to
that
be rich.
That's the thing, not really, and
Okay.
that's where the church, this thing is kind of dangerous, because in the beginning levels, like I remember I was at a student's house, and the kid, he's like a little kid, he was like 14, and he's like, "Oh, my mom left this DVD to watch. Let's watch it." So we watched this DVD, and I have no clue what the hell I'm watching, but some of it makes sense. It's talking about how, like, your past traumas can affect how you act today, which is true. I mean, that's why people go to psychotherapy. It's like you're dealing with the fact that your mom didn't breastfeed you long enough when you were little, or you still have memories of stuff from when you were little that affect how you are as an adult. That's pretty much Freudian 101 psycho analysis. So that part, and that's where it's kind of fucked up, because the beginning part of Scientology is actually not that out there, and it can actually help you. There are things that they teach at the beginning stages about how to be assertive, how to communicate well, how to be able to let go of all these hindrances, all these these past traumas that are affecting how it is that you're living today. That's cool. So I'm watching this video and I'm like, okay, this sort of makes sense, until they start to get real wacky, where they're like, imagine Peter, imagine you get in an accident, and while you're down on the ground, you hear all these people screaming, "Oh my God, is he dead? Is he this? Is he that?" You're gonna keep those memories in your mind. So then, even after you're recovered from the accident, subconsciously you haven't really recovered. So you're still kind of afraid every time that you cross the road, because you have like this flashback and you don't know where it's coming from. So that part you can kind of deal with. But then it starts to get to like, but you don't have to only deal with these engrams, they call them, from this life, but you got to deal with the engrams from your past lives, right? Because when Pete was like a woman, 3 generations ago, or in the 1600s, uh, Pete got raped a bunch of times, and he's still dealing with the bad memories of that rape from the 16th century when he was a woman. So you got to be able to clear that shit to be able to get
Yeah,
you to move
it was
forward.
difficult. It was difficult.
Yeah, yes, to be able to move forward into the next life and beyond and be able to join like these universal forces. Man, to that point you're almost like, okay, Buddhism believes in reincarnation. I can sort of ride with it. But then when it starts to get dangerous is every time you go to these therapies that they call auditing, these motherfuckers, they write down everything that you're saying. So imagine, Pete, you're at this auditing session and it's like a confessional. You know, it's like going to the Catholic
Yeah,
Church, talking to the priest. And you're like, oh, I masturbated to a picture of, I don't know, a dog or something. I don't know, something freaky, right? And they're like, "How do you feel about that, Pete?" And Pete's like, "Well,
yeah,
I feel really bad about it. It's not a vibration I want to be on." Da 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 da. So it's all nice and sweet, and Pete gets discharges that negative energy, and then he's all good, and he continues being a good. You know, he sees that Scientology is helping him be better in life. But now Pete is like, yo, now that I'm at the part of Scientology where you're telling me there's like a bunch of aliens in my body that got sent here a billion years ago because their planet was overpopulated and they just want to
yeah.
ruin my life, I'm out. Well, Pete, are you
It's
sure you want to be out? Because I have a whole file on you and your sick
yeah,
masturbation fantasies. So are you sure? Are you
yeah,
really sure you want to be out? Are you really sure you want to say that my Scientology religion is bullshit? And that's how they get you.
yeah,
That is how they get you.
yeah,
You're stuck in there.
yeah,
And they even kind of talked a little bit about that with John Travolta. Because I think it's pretty, I mean, it's rumors, but, you know, chances are dude is gay. Okay, and he's got these
right.
beards, these women that go out with him on dates. So they're like, why isn't John Travolta out? You know, because John Travolta saw some shitty stuff that these Scientologists did to his friends way back in the early or mid 80s, and the really bad conditions that they were making them like do almost like slave labor. But why isn't he out? Well, maybe they got shit in John Travolta's file when he was doing all his auditing, you know, his stuff, that maybe
Yeah,
John Travolta doesn't want out, you know, and same with Tom Cruise and all these celebrities, man, they
yeah,
got
yeah.
you
I
by.
was going to say the same thing. Like, why do these otherwise intelligent people buy into this crap? And it's yeah, from what you're saying, like Scientology's got shit on them, and they can't get out.
And they can't get out. And in the beginning, I'm telling you, at the beginning, and that's what the part that I like most about going balls deep into Scientology this weekend is that I always had a very negative view of it, just completely. But then when you actually listen to the people that left and actually, and I like Going Clear, the documentary, a little bit more than Louis Theroux, because he's always trying to make little jokes and everything, and I think it's very surface level. Going Clear really goes deep into what Scientology is, how it started, L. Ron Hubbard, and it talks to people that were in there. And they even mention this. Why don't they just make a Scientology light, like without all the aliens and stuff? Because the beginning, like the first two steps, whatever of it, it's actually not that different than most New Age or even Buddhist traditions, where it's like, okay, man, I mean, if you want to live in the now and the present, you got to be able to let go of all this negative feelings from the past. The past is past. Be assertive. Know what you want. This is stuff that it's like self help 101. It's really not that out there. But by the time you get to the out there stuff, yes, you've paid a lot of money, so you feel like, man, I've invested this much in this shit. I might as well keep going. And two, you've told them all the dirty little secrets that you never would have told anybody for a lifetime. So I think that's where, which is like every good cult. It starts out good. It starts out real good.
Yeah.
It starts out with, we're gonna save the
Oh yeah.
planet. We're gonna save
Just like Kelly in
humanity.
90210.
Oh yeah, she got in a cult, right? I forgot that you had put that in there.
Yes, she did.
Yes, and it all starts out well and good, and then before you know it, it's too late. Before you know it, they've separated you from your friends. They've separated you from your family, and you start to believe a little bit of it because you're like, but I have gotten better. I have learned how to communicate and assert myself better. I've gotten that job that they said I was going to be able to get if I did it like this. So it's like your mind is fucked up because you're like it is. I mean, is it true or is it not true? I've invested so much of myself, and so I like that I watched these because I felt a little bit of compassion for these folks, not empathy exactly, but compassion. Um, Except for the leadership, because those guys are just fucking assholes.
Right,
This Miss Calvage motherfucker, he's a fucking piece of shit. But the people that are in there, which are all different level people, and then even if you get to the celebrities don't see any of the stuff that's going on in the compounds where they have people working like 16-hour days and they're just stuck in these compounds being Scientologists. Tom Cruise gets treated like a fucking prince. He doesn't see that part. I mean, he should be smart enough where he should be able to get out,
right,
but who knows how much shit they got on him. Where I very much doubt he's gonna be out, but I've seen that he hasn't been so gung ho lately, which may be his way of like, well, I can't get out, but at the same time, I don't need to do propaganda for these motherfuckers 24/7. So, but
right.
but it was interesting. Like I probably won't recommend my Scientology movie, but if you want to watch a good one, it's on YouTube, Pete. I think Going Clear. It's a good documentary that gets into the mind of cult mentality, not just Scientology, and it
Right,
does something that's very important, which I believe, and I kind of felt this when I watched a documentary maybe a couple months ago about flat earthers, where it's so easy to laugh at them and ridicule them and all this stuff, but this documentary kind of does. It shows how idiotic they are, but it comes at it from this point of view of these aren't stupid people. They really aren't. I mean, the amount of work that they put into coming up with these flat earth models and how it works and how it doesn't work, it takes somebody with relative intelligence to do it. They just somehow went off the
right.
path. So if you treat them like
Yeah,
idiots and you just ridicule them, you're never going to get them back into reality. So I kind of had to learn. I learned that after watching these. It's like I'm gonna stop being so nasty about Scientology because these are people that are kind of brainwashed. And if I just say Scientologists are idiots and they're stupid, well, you're a suppressing person. I think that's what they call them. You're an SP. That's all you are, and you'll never be able to reach them.
yeah.
No, that's they have.
What you're doing is you're living up to the stereotype of what the cultists tell you people are going to say to you. Like people are going to say
Exactly.
you're brainwashed. So if you say you're
Exactly.
brainwashed, of course you're just like fulfilling what the
It's
cultists are telling them.
you're fulfilling the prophecy. So, if anything, I thought this was a learning moment for me, where I was like, okay, uh, obviously, I think it's total bullshit, but at some level, you have to be able to get people to at least come to your side or communicate with you. One last thing before we move ahead, because I was watching Dr. Tyson, the astrophysicist. I
Neil
watch a lot of
deGrasse,
his stuff. Yeah, Neil
yes,
deGrasse
yeah,
Tyson,
he's great.
and they were asking him a question about what's the guy that wrote the God Deception, that really angry atheist.
Richard Dawkins, I
Yeah,
believe.
Richard Dawkins. I think they were in a panel together, and Tyson said something real interesting because Tyson's an atheist too. I mean, he's pretty much said it, but he said kind of the same thing. He's like, the thing is if I come at it from the place where what's his name? You said the God Deception
Dawkins,
dude, Dawkins comes.
Dawkins.
I'm yeah, I'm not ever gonna be able to change somebody's mind, or maybe that's not even my goal. But I'm not even gonna get them to see the world from a different perspective because I'm automatically their enemy, you know? So I
Right.
always come at it from the point of, okay, I respect that you believe in God. Maybe you believe the earth is 6,000 years old, whatever you believe. But
I
consider
actually do know people who've had their minds changed by Dawkins, though. That's the weird thing. Like his full on balls out approach actually really
does it
worked.
work for some, but I don't know if it works for the majority. I think it turns more people off. I think you kind of have to already be on, you have to have one foot already on that side when you're dealing with somebody that's just coming at you like what you believe is absolutely ridiculous and stupid. I think somebody
Yeah,
has
I
to
think it
already
depends on your level
feel,
of indoctrination.
could be
Because
that
like
too.
when you're a kid and you grow up and like because I had this I grew up in the church. I was indoctrinated in church. My mother was very religious, which is weird because both her parents were atheists. So being religious was like her idea of being rebellious. And she grew up religious and forced us kids into church. And as a kid, you just believe what grown-ups tell you. You do. You just like, okay, these are grown-ups. They're our role models. They're the people that have experience. So of course, anything they say is true. And
Big
what
man.
Dawkins' writing mostly says is that grown-ups don't know shit.
No, I get you. I think, I mean, obviously he's very popular. He's a best-selling author, but I don't know if the combative approach is always the best approach. I think it definitely gets some people, but like you said, it depends how deeply indoctrinated they are. But then we use that word indoctrination
Right.
usually has such a negative connotation. Maybe it's just okay how deeply religious they are, but not like, I want to kill people for my God, deeply religious. Just I really believe that this is true. On a neutral, you can still have a beer with me level. And
Right.
I don't know if that combative approach can bring somebody to that side. I think you just have to. It's the ability to just be able to look at that person and see, okay, I respect that you believe that, but look, there's this over here. Maybe you should consider that too. I don't know. I think it opens it up a little bit. But bringing it back to Scientology, I think that's important. If you meet any Scientologists, which there aren't very many left, I think there's like 20,000, don't ridicule them at first. Wait, until they say something really stupid, and then
Right.
and then you could call them an idiot. But uh, but just cults in general, just know. And I think they even broach on that subject. Well, what makes Scientology different than any other religion? Isn't that, aren't they cults too? Well, the big difference is that, and they say that in the documentary, like if you ask a Jew, a Muslim, or a Christian to explain their faith to you, they can pretty much do it in about a minute, maybe two, and you don't have to like keep paying them to get like that extra bit revealed. Like, well, now you've been a Jew for 5 years, and guess what? Now you're gonna find out the real reason God did this. No, it's all laid out to you. Either you believe it or you don't. You can go to church or not go to church. Nobody's gonna follow you around and say, Pete, you weren't at the baptism this Sunday. Why weren't you there? They can be annoying. They'll knock on your door every once in a while and annoy the shit out of you. But
Yeah.
there's not that mystery of if now if you pay $1,000, you'll get to find out why it is God hates gays. It's like it's not on that level. Whereas Scientology is built completely like that. It's based on these levels. I think there's 8 of them, and 8 is the highest level. But then they're making more levels because there's people that are getting to 8, and then they can't get any more money out of them. So they're like, because when you're at level
Right.
8, you're like the magic thetan, where I think you can like move objects or some shit. But I
Right.
recommend. Like I said, I like Going Clear a little bit more because it took it a little bit more seriously than my Scientology movie. But they're both worth a watch. My Scientology movie is a little bit more tongue in cheek, but it is freaky because in the movie, as he's making the documentary, the Scientologists show up and they start filming him. And there's like this guy with a
Oh
camera, and this
wow.
bitch shows up, and then the guy's like, "Oh, I was just hired. I was just hired. I don't know who these are people are. I was just hired. I'm a freelance cameraman." And then like 30 minutes later, like 30 minutes as in the runtime of the movie, they've done a whole bunch of shit. They're filming something else. And then these like three other motherfuckers show up, and it's the same cameraman, and he's given the same line. He's like, "I don't know, I was just hired by these guys." And then they drive up to their compound, and it's a public road, and this car comes out, and this lady's like, "You can't be here, it's trespassing." And the dude's like, "No, this is a public road, I have a permit to film." He's like, "No." She calls the cops on them. She tells the cops to leave, and then later when they go back to the compound, it says road closed, and the dude's like, "This is a public road, like who are these people?" There, man, it's intense. But anyway, let's close it out, Pete, because it's late. Give us a little bit of
Yes,
My
yes.
Bloody Valentine. My Bloody
No, I'm actually,
Valentine.
yeah, the only reason that wound up on your list is because I'm actually in the middle of watching it now, and I want to get back to doing that. But I do have to say, it's a very BC movie. I didn't know this was a Canadian movie. It's you saw probably a bit of it in the horror documentary, In Search of Darkness. They talked about it a bit, and I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that's one I've never seen. And it turns out it's not only a Canadian movie, but it was a BC made movie, which is
BC,
my
British
home
Columbia.
province.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is my home province. And it is so BC. It is so BC. Like in BC, there are like three types of people. There are dope smoking hippie communists. There are knuckle dragging lumberjack rednecks, which is what this movie is mostly about, and people who are so conservative that they get kicked out of the Bible Belt of America. And this movie combines all that with the beautiful natural scenery of British Columbia because it is actually a really beautiful province, lots of trees and shit, mountains and stuff. But yeah, it's basically a slasher movie. It's a BC slasher movie. I'm enjoying it so far. It's not special. The
It's.
movie, the documentary, I mean.
I think that was the part of the documentary
Yeah,
where they're
it
talking
hyped it
about.
up to be like,
Oh, sorry.
no,
No,
go
I was
ahead.
just saying. I was just gonna say. I think that was the part of the documentary where they were talking about how it became popular to have the theme movies. Like there was the Christmas movies, the Valentine's Day
Right,
movies,
right.
the Mother's Day
Yeah,
movie, whatever. So that became kind of a popular.
yeah,
I've heard of it before. I've never seen it, but it looks.
yeah. It's not special. It just kind of resonates a chord with me because I am from British Columbia and I recognize the scenery and the characterizations of the people. It's like, oh my God, that's so BC. But yeah, if you're not from there, it's probably not going to do much for you.
Yeah,
It is actually really violent. There's a lot of hearts getting ripped out. So yeah, if you're into slasher type stuff, it might do something for you.
I'll probably check it out at some point because it looked kind of cheesy and good cheesy though. All right, guys, that's it. So just to, I always do this, man. I should have like the end. I should put this one at the end so I don't have to go all the way back. But so just to review, we today we talked about Guns Akimbo, which Pete said is a just like an action movie,
Yep, yep, straight
high,
up
high,
action movie.
high octane
But
action. The
it's a
lighthouse. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's a fucked up action movie with Harry Potter.
The lighthouse, very weird, or I mean weird for some taste. I thought it was decent movie. kind of quiet. You got to kind of really sit there and really pay attention, but it's worth it. It's a character piece. It's definitely just two actors doing their thing. And what about the room? The room. Oh no,
Uh,
no, I'm sorry.
yeah, the
Room. It's
room.
room,
Yes,
not the
just
room,
room.
because the room is that other movie with the disaster artist.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, Room's a really great Oscar-winning performance by Brie Larson, and actually a surprisingly sensitive and human approach to abduction and rape.
Oh, look at Pete getting all sensitive on us. And
I
then
know.
I know. And then uh and then we closed it out with some Scientology guys. Again, I like Going Clear a little bit more, and you can find that on YouTube, the full documentary. But my Scientology movie is interesting. And like I said, what it does that was different than what I already knew about Scientology and how wacky it was is that it talks to the high ranking members who kind of left like flies, like in 2005, 2006, after the abuse started happening to them, where they were locked up in these rooms for not being good Scientologists. So it gives an even deeper inside look at the religion, but it also kind of makes you sympathize a little bit for the people that are in the religion and why don't they leave and stuff like that. So it's kind of a cool movie if you want to get into the psychology or the psychosis of being inside of a cult or odd um, belief system. And then My Bloody Valentine, Pete's still watching. It looks like 80s gory fun. So oh, we got somebody that came back on, but we're about to sign off, whoever it was. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting, people. So thank you, Renee Adolfi.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for their
Yes,
participation
thank
tonight. It was
thank you,
good to have an
Vic.
audience.
Yeah, thank you, Vic Grimes, for watching. And we will see you next Monday, and we'll keep on watching our Alien movies. So we'll be doing the podcast of that soon, and at some point, I will have the Star Trek one edited down. You know what I'm doing? I'm trying to time it so that the Star Trek podcast comes out right before the third season of Star Trek Discovery. So we get a lot of buzz.
Discovery is on my watch list. I haven't actually seen
Oh, you should.
Discovery.
You haven't seen it yet? Yeah, I think you would dig Discovery,
Yeah,
man. And
I
Jason
love Picard though. I love Picard.
Carter's pretty good, but Discovery is bonkers. And Jason Isaacs is in season one. That's all I'll say, and he's fucking awesome. Like the first 3, 4 episodes, I was like, yeah, and then around episode 5, it starts to get rolling. Season one, and then it goes bonkers. And season 2 was a little bit better than season one too. So I think you'll dig it. I think you'll dig it. It's darker. It's much more Star Trek Deep Space Nine ish in that way.
Nice, nice.
Yeah,
Nothing
it's
but
got some.
time. Nothing but time.
Yeah, so check that out. You might dig it. All right, people. Thank you again, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave any comments that you have below, and tell us what you're watching in the comments. Okay, maybe we'll check it out if we haven't seen it. Until next time, bye bye.
All right. Cheers.